We're finishing Super Eyepatch Wolf's social anxiety horror, also known as the "Why are you letting this happen?" video, because you're upset and you don't want to be upset because you're being upset by standing out and people are staring at you and it's socially awkward. You don't like the awkward because the awkward hurts. It's like, I get this, but also I hate this. As you can tell, this is going to be a perfectly happy, fun, and relaxing video section. Yep. Gonna jump right in on this one.
I'm not gonna do that thing again where I pretend that there isn't a film that explores this idea. There just is, and we're gonna talk about it now.
Lovely.
I acknowledge this isn't my strongest segue. In an opening scene of Beau is Afraid, our main character, Beau, steps out of his therapist's office onto the streets of a nameless city. And immediately, we can see in the background a woman holding a sign that reads, "I
will cut off my own hands off?" What the fuck? Okay. Guns aplenty. Oh yeah, guns right there.
Will cut my own hands off. A vendor next to her sells semi-automatic weapons to children. Cults recruit openly in the street, and a man joyously breakdances in front of a building from the roof of which a person is about to hurl themselves to their death.
This is the opening. Oh God, if you ever need to tell me this is a really fucked up movie, I think I have got that impression already. What the hell, man?
While gleeful onlookers encourage them to do so, excited to capture the moment on their phones. This is a world where dead bodies rot openly in the streets, where needles hang visibly from the arms of vagrants, and the pulsing sound.
So we're getting a deep dive on New Jersey. Got it.
Sounds of screams, gunshots, and violence fill the skyline. A place of constant surging madness where people aren't so much people as they are terrifying human-shaped nightmares. Cool. There is this world...
Like, admittedly, this is the least crazy thing so far. Body art like that's just kind of cool looking. Not my thing, but cool. Colored contacts, on the other hand, ooh, fuck no. So yeah, everything else is terrifying.
Are terrifying human-shaped nightmares. There is this world, and then there is Beau. And Beau is everything this world isn't. He's pleasant and quiet and shy, and most of all, he just wants to be left alone. However, from the moment he tries to enter his apartment, at which point he is chased by a devil-faced lunatic, to the graffiti in his lobby that simply reads, "Kill children," to the news report that plays on television warning,
"Birthday boy stabbed man, stabs 3 more." This is a movie about this guy being crazy, isn't it?
A naked man knifing people in the neck and guts, dubbed the "Birthday Boy Stab Man." It's the strange notes he receives in the middle of the night threatening him to turn down music he is not playing. It's obvious that peace eludes Beau. This world of churning madness is constantly pressing in on him, and Beau is afraid. The main source of that fear being other people. Every moment he's forced to interact with another person is just this hellish nightmare.
I am never watching this movie. I don't think I could do it. I think it's fascinating. I think this review is going to be interesting. I think if anyone ever gave me a copy of this, I would take it as a personal offense and indication that they are planning to commit harm to myself or someone else and immediately call the police for my own protection. Because at this point, that seems like the only rational reason someone would buy this.
Beautifully elicited by this shot of Beau attempting to cross the street to his local grocery store.
Bashed a guy in the head already.
Help me, help me.
I'm assuming the ending is going to be that this is all in his head and none of it's real. Because it seems like the kind of this is what schizophrenia looks like from the inside style of movie that I would expect. There's a few other movies that have done something similar, but they're more in the fantastical. This one is just in the, oh God, what the fuckle. I'm not really sure if fuckle is a thing now, but I think that's perfectly fitting at this point.
Afraid is a panic attack of a movie, and I adore it. However, the film was both critically and commercially a disaster, being unfavorably compared to director Ari Star's previous movies Hereditary and Midsommar, both of which were box office meteor smashes of occultic horror.
Occult horror? Okay. I've heard of Midsommar. I've never heard of Hereditary, and frankly, if they're horror, I'm definitely not going to watch either of them.
Bo being neither of those things.
Is that a shoe through the free? What? Okay, sure. Well, actually, impressive. It still works.
Having lost $25 million and mauled by fans for not being a true horror movie.
I disagree. This is terrifying to me, in the sense that I would never actually want to pay money to see this, because this would be absolutely a nightmare to me, because I would just not enjoy any second of it. Interesting as a process, terrifying is actually having to pay money for it. Also, because this thing is just so many levels of fucked up. Also, can you imagine a movie only losing $25 million to be considered a flop? There's a lot of movies out there, Madam Web, that have done a lot more than that.
But to me, saying Beau is Afraid is a bad traditional horror movie is like saying the Mona Lisa is the worst automobile ever created. You're not wrong, you're just not right either. This is a movie.
I had the horrible image now that there would be a Mona Lisa automobile, and I kind of want to look it up because I'm sure someone has done something stupid enough to literally count as that. But I'm not sure I want to look it up. I kind of do. We'll find out.
Movie designed to force you into this horrifying world of social anxiety through the eyes of someone who absolutely cannot handle it, and it wears you down over its 3-hour runtime as Beau is
3 hours of this? Oh god, no. I liked Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King, but that was a movie I liked, and even then I was like, oh, that's a lot of endings. But I was fine with it. 3 hours of this is a fall. No, I would walk out. Granted, I would also never see this in the first place, so I'd be in here by accident. That would happen regardless. I would walk out, but still.
propelled from nightmare scenario to nightmare scenario that begins with a chain reaction of horrifying events that involves Beau missing a flight to go visit his mother after his passport vanishes. I know that doesn't sound scary. It is. Only for her head to be crushed by a giant chandelier, causing Beau to flee naked into the streets, struck by a car and awaken 3 days later and receive this phone call from his mother's lawyer. And just listen to the neutron star levels of social pressure applied here.
It was your mother's unfortunate wish that she not be buried without you present. The burial has been outrageously postponed. There is no rest for her. And there has been no rest for the people that love her. So we are waiting, Beau. And every minute more that we wait only deepens the humiliation.
And so we have Beau, now tasked with journeying across this insane world, suffering and struggling every step of the way as he is kidnapped by paint-drinking teens, pursued by a homicidal army veteran, and engaging in the most uncomfortable sex scene I've witnessed outside of 80s anime OVAs. Beau at one point living an entirely different life that actually goes well before being pulled back to this nightmare of a reality. Finally, Beau reaches the home of his mother.
I would immediately tell the mom's lawyer to go fuck off and hang up. This does not... I don't... Everything about this is insane. Also, the movie started with him taking pills. So again, I'm assuming at some point it would be that this is all a metaphor. It didn't actually happen. It's all in his head, and this is seeing what it's like without the medication. I'm assuming he thinks he's crazy, and that's the metaphor through when he thinks he's sane, he's crazy. And I don't know if this is where it's going. I'm just assuming, because it seems like the kind of rug pull that would happen.
Only to discover spoilers.
Yes, I too think there are too many spoilers section in this video, but art just be like that sometimes. You should watch them anyway, and I'm not watching this one. No, God, no. And what are you gonna do? Watch the films? I know you won't. I know you won't. You're very right about this one. I know for the previous one as well, about the guys in Finland. I'm not watching that one. I'm taking this as a list of things to avoid, actively avoid, to run away screaming from. No, just no. Oh, God. I know you won't. Also, the bit earlier where I talked about social media maulings, that was rhetorical and referring to no specific event, but I know some people will think I'm talking about some internet person who in reality I probably have never heard of. Okay, I feel better now. Thank you. I don't know why, but these little, I guess they're called vanity plates. I just really enjoy reading them.
That his mother is still alive, that this entire film, that everything that's happened and everyone he's interacted with has all been an elaborate test of his love and loyalty to her, which he has failed. She rages at him, screaming what a constant disappointment he is and has always been.
I think either violence or just leaving is a good choice right now.
And now, failing to even make it to her own funeral, how he has always been a coward, avoiding engaging with her or anyone else, how humiliating it is to have a son like this. And finally, Bo just breaks.
Yeah.
He kills her.
That sounds like the right choice.
In the film's final scene, Bo sails out into the ocean, where for the first time, it's just him. And he's free. Free of the expectations of his mother, of the agony and terror that other people bring. He no longer needs to be afraid. Because for the first time, he is truly alone. Only for Bo to find himself surrounded by a massive nautical stadium filled with everyone he has ever known, including...
Are we going full Truman Show on this one? What the fuck, man? Yeah, this is nightmare fuel to me.
Including his mother, who is somehow still alive.
She got better.
Who all together put Bo on trial, combing through footage of his entire life, isolating his worst moments and vilifying him for them. And Bo tries to explain, he pleads with them, he says that he's done his best. It does not matter. This is...
They got that guy? Really? The guy from Spin City? Oh, okay, sure.
How everyone sees him. Therefore, this is what Bo is. He is a terrible son, a terrible person, and will now be devoured by some gargantuan aquatic monstrosity.
Okay, that happened.
The reason I love this film so much is that through all the surreal, unhinged social nightmare Bo endures, what it ultimately says with this final scene is that there is little we fear more than a room full of people judging us.
And they're literally judging him at that point, where normally you could say, fuck off and walk away. Here, they had you eaten by a monster. Okay, sure. I could see why this one flopped. I thought they were going for the more artistic, this is a depiction of what it looks like to have this illness, and be completely wrong. No, apparently it's just insane.
Because what
Which
they
probably is better,
see,
actually.
we are. Now that's frightening. And it brings us to the final movie we're going to talk about that horrifically expands on that idea.
Lovely. I think I still have it in me to do this. Let's go. Oh, God.
And this
social anxiety, man,
is the king of social anxiety horror.
This
Our
is fine.
Is Pete.
Oh, I missed what you said.
Our protagonist is Pete, and Pete is getting ready to spend the weekend with his college friends for his birthday. He's in his early 30s and hasn't seen his friends in many years, but you can hear the excitement in his voice as he tells his girlfriend about them. He used to be known as the captain of the party, the group's leader, affectionately known as the Skipper or Skippy. Skippy.
Oh, this is already so awkward. If you ever know someone who refers to themselves as the Skipper or Skippy, because I'm the life of the party, and then they do this. Oh, God. Tell me you peaked in high school without telling me you peaked in high school.
Pete is excited not only to get the old gang back together, but to share with his friends all the good deeds and charity work he's done since then, to show them how much he's grown as a person. And so, when he finally reaches the secluded country manor the reunion will take place at, he pulls up, Deruda Sandstorm blaring from his car stereo with a primed bottle of champagne in hand, and enters the mansion to find nothing. No friends, no welcome, just emptiness. Pete sits alone for hours, and you can see the excitement leak out of him until late that night, finally, his friends arrive.
What the fuck? Yeah, my thoughts exactly. Pete, what are you doing here? Oh, no. George's invite. That was a joke, mate. No, seriously, I mean, why would George want somebody else's birthday at his house?
All My Friends Hate Me. That's the name of this movie? And that's why, because they're all just fucking around with him constantly, aren't they?
This is All My Friends Hate Me. Pete's friends welcome him, but there's something odd in the way they speak to him, pointing out little things about him that are different. The way he speaks, his facial hair. They ask him if he's doing all right. There's something so subtle and hard to pin down in how they interact with Pete, but you can feel it.
Yeah, actually, again, like the one shot where you're focused on this guy's face the first time, he just was staring without blinking. Then the other girl was smoking, just making a point not to look at him until she finally just... It's like the sheer dismissal here. Okay, yeah. I think I might hate this movie in every way, shape, and form, but I kind of appreciate the actor's ability to get across disdain without ever saying a word because, you know, acting. So I can appreciate this one, and I'm not just holding to this because I need something at this point.
You can feel it in their body language, how they lean away from Pete as they talk to him, or their manner.
Or even just this guy's expression. It's like, I'm acting happy, and just slowly draining it out of me. How many takes do they do to make this movie?
In their body language, how they lean away from Pete as they talk to him.
Like he literally loses animation in his face and just becomes more and more set. Has his head tilted back a bit. Ugh.
Or their mannerisms, how Pete will be the only one not served breakfast, forcing him to get it himself. Or the vague allusions they make to Pete's past sins. And stranger still, while this is meant to be an intimate reunion of old friends, there's someone here that Pete does not recognize. An unusual man who is loud and abrasive and who constantly ridicules Pete but no one else and doesn't seem to respect Pete's personal boundaries.
Another one where I'm assuming it's about this guy is actually him. Like we're going full on Fight Club on this. Also, Mega Man Land Prime, Airier. Why aren't you insane yet? Ah, that's the question. I was an English major. I was already at that point. I can't get any more insane, except for I can, but we're going to ignore that. We all float down here. Oh, God.
And yet, Pete's friends think he's hilarious. They treat this man the way Pete remembers being treated. Pete tries to shake the cloying feeling that something is wrong, but things only grow more uncomfortable. Some of his friends seem like these unhinged versions of the people he remembers, doing obscene amounts of drugs and pitching Pete these ridiculous business ideas.
Okay, that part right there isn't so much a horror movie as every contact you get on Facebook talking about this great new thing I have. It's called crypto. Do you want to learn about it? Some of them are scams. Others are just dumb people who think they found an answer. I know this is supposed to be social horror, but frankly, it's also describing really effectively why sometimes you should not recontact old friends because, yeah, this happens.
and others just feel distant and cold. Like when the group goes pigeon shooting and Pete fails to hit a single target, they all seem silently furious at him. And Pete tries to talk to them. He tries to tell them about his charity work, but he is constantly interrupted and ignored. And you watch as slowly his confidence crumbles.
At what point do you just leave? I mean, I would have left after the first, no one being there and pulling all that freaking night stuff, so I also hate waiting, so I'm not a really good example. But still, what the hell, man? And Ross said I should look up Kaif. He's a streamer who speaks Welsh to insult others, and it's becoming national language as Great Britain is slowly splitting up. Oh god, yeah. That's kind of awesome. Not the splitting up part, but the fact that it's becoming a national language. On the other hand, without a consistent language, because the boundary is so close, it'll probably just make trade a bitch.
There's one shot where for 60 entire seconds, Pete agonizes over how to wear his shirt, buttoning and unbuttoning, and when he finally decides, this happens.
Fucking make an effort, mate.
It's funny, but it's so cruel, and making it crueler is that occasionally there'll be these little moments of warmth, some echo of what these friendships used to be, only to vanish, leaving Pete more lost than ever. Like in this one scene that just absolutely kills me, where everyone's sitting around drinking, and for the first time the entire movie, Pete starts to relax. He laughs and reminisces, sharing stories and memories from college, and just when everything is feeling normal, this happens.
Listen, Pete. Just so you know, you're not doing too well.
What?
This weekend so far, I mean, you've been a bit crap, haven't you?
All My Friends Hate Me is everything we've been talking about this entire video. Laser focused to torture this character who is humiliated as his social standing among his friends falls lower and lower, who is constantly watched and scrutinized, particularly by this strange man, who...
I honestly don't understand how he doesn't walk out of this movie. I know it's because it's a movie, of course, but functionally in this situation, why are you still in it? Why don't you just leave? I do not understand. But also because, I mean, I've walked out of social groups that I found out were toxic shitheads before, so I just did it and was like, oh, fuck it. I did not care. I was pissed off I spent time with them at the end, but that's just how it went. I don't get the idea of subjecting yourself to people who are this asshole-ish. And I guess for him, it's because he has the previous connections that he thought were good, but it's not. But at the same time, why? Just, they're obviously a bunch of shitheads at this point. And it goes, just, I don't get this.
Whenever Pete reveals any detail about himself, writes it down in a little notebook, all contributing to this mounting sense of paranoia. Why are Pete's friends being like this? Who is tampering with his medication? And who is this man? Why is something about him so strangely familiar? And what is the terrible feeling that comes over Pete when he sees the image of a little girl on the man's phone screen? But the true horror of this movie,
he just replaces
social
him?
anxiety horror in general, comes in its final scene.
I'm surprised we have a spoiler screen in this one. I would not have any idea about that. Spoilers end at 1:11:50. Listen, if you've actually been skipping the spoiler sections, I'm just going to say, I don't respect you. You may make me angry. You make me so angry, I would never be friends with you. I'm so mad at you that I'm not even going to spell check these slides. Okay, now I'm trying to see if he spelled anything wrong, but with my understanding of English, I realize I still can't spell shit to save my life. And I also don't care enough. Joke's on you. I've only skipped some of them so you could be selectively angry. Also known as I still don't care. Also, obviously, what he's doing here is the social pressure aspect where he's being passive-aggressive to be angry at someone on the internet. So you feel like you're getting that social anxiety. Well, shit, why is he looking at me? That's what he's doing right here. He's literally doing what he's talking about. It's actually kind of brilliant that he put it in there.
As All My Friends Hate Me enters its final scene, you know something is coming. The awkward interactions, the constant biting disapproval, the strange man. There has to be a reason for all this. A reason that may be tied to the big surprise that all Pete's friends keep alluding to. The evening begins.
They're just going to shoot him or something?
Downstairs, only to discover all his friends dressed like him. Specifically, different versions of him. All the different people he's been over the course of his life. It's surreal, but before Pete can steady himself, they enter a large room with a stage, through the curtain of which emerges a strange man dressed like Pete and begins performing a ghoulish impersonation of Pete, mimicking how he talks, mocking the fact that Pete is constantly bringing up his charity work, his traveling, how refined he now is compared to his friends, and everyone around Pete howls in delight. Finally,
Okay, can I just admit right now, even though he's the guy who's being shown as a victim, if he actually has just been bringing up his chair and his travel, how good he is now and refined, out of context, that kind of sounds like a douchebag. Like, legitimately, if we didn't have the context of this is the guy suffering, that would be the villain in any other movie. He would be the anti-hero, not the anti-hero, but like the antithesis that your protagonist has to get over. He's the person who's just better than everyone. Except he's, well, suffering here. It does sound weird, right? I'm not the only one thinking that. Ooh, also, Mega Man Land Prime, you said, spoiler, Airier has actually been streaming to no one this whole time, and we are all insane in his mind. Well, that's insane right there. I've streamed plenty of times to no one. Literally, I've been doing this for years, man. There are tons of streams that have one view, because I went to check to see if anyone watched it and hadn't. That part, that would be fine. If I had this many voices in my head, why do they never come out when I was trying to write and I needed to figure out how someone else sounded? Literally, it's actually a thing some writers do. If you have a way to interact with multiple voices, you could just start writing in their own voices to make consistent, coherent personalities. And remember, because you have them in your head, it's a way some writers have worked. It's also really mentally disastrous and probably going to lead to an early grave, because that does not seem healthy. But it has been done to great and ultimately not pleasant effect. Yeah.
Pete can't take it anymore. He erupts, humiliated, scared, and furious. And in that flood of emotion, he finally recognizes the strange man behind all this. Pete tells a story of how, in his childhood, he and his friend used to call a young, mentally disabled girl who was terrified of dogs. They'd bark down the phone at her in an attempt to scare her. However, the last time they did this, the girl became so frightened that she tried to hide in a plastic bag, in which she suffocated and died. Because of the indirect nature of the incident, no criminal charges were ever filed. That girl is the girl on the man's phone screen. He is her brother, here to take revenge on Pete in the most subtle and insidious way possible. Pete, through tears, apologizes.
I'm so sorry.
Huh. So that's probably why they actually had him sounding like the classical douchebag at the beginning, and when he was mocked here, it's because they're pointing out that he's still a classical douchebag. Because he is very much that guy. He's just that guy getting the comeuppance. Huh. That's kind of brilliant.
And the man responds,
Don't be.
Why?
Because that's not me, mate.
this man is not the girl's brother. The picture on his phone is his daughter. He's actually just some guy that Pete and his friends met in a pub in college. That's the surprise.
Oh, so he just acknowledged this. Oh, that's so evil. I love this. So the plastic bag was going back to when he actually accidentally killed someone by being a douchebag. And the surprise is that's just him seeming to find a connection, but it's not real. I'm assuming then the medication they've been showing him taking and mentioned were tampered with are going to come into play.
That's it. Baffled, hurt, and exhausted, Pete explodes, demanding to know what is happening. If this isn't revenge, then what is it? Why are all his friends acting so strange? And they reveal something so much more disturbing than whatever Pete was imagining. There is no conspiracy. There is no plan to hurt Pete. He's the one who's been acting strange. And I think the real brilliance of this movie is that they're right. When you first watch All My Friends Hate Me, it's hard not to feel for Pete, not to see this entire scenario from his perspective and empathize with the gnawing paranoia he's experiencing. But on rewatching it, you realize that Pete does think he's better than them. He is constantly talking about his own charity work, and he belittles his friends' ideas and doesn't ask them questions about their own lives or even know what they do for a living. He just shames them for being the way they used to be, and they point out, "We haven't changed, Pete. You have." And then comes the most pathetic moments of the entire movie.
Oh?
I'm still all Pete. I'm still Skippy.
Yeah, who is this Skippy, by the way? Is it you?
Yeah, I was confused when you mentioned that earlier.
One of the cruelest things you can do to a person is take away their perception of themselves. And that's what happens to Pete here. He learns that he was never who he thought he was, that this idea of Skippy, that was never how anyone saw him. And in this scene, he sees his true self reflected in everyone around him. In the final scene of the movie, Pete's idea of who he is and how people see him has been so thoroughly dismantled that he asks his fiancée, does she still want to marry him? And she replies,
No.
no. Before telling him that it was just a joke, that of course she'll still marry him. But Pete, unable to tell what's real and what isn't anymore, just sits there in silence, unsure of who he is and how he's perceived, now in complete existential freefall.
And the thing is, I'm going back to my initial impression of him in the beginning. Asshole who peaked in college, which this seems to be, that's what they're portraying. But goddamn, are you making the guy sympathetic somehow? Also, he apparently admitted to a bunch of people who became strangers that he indirectly murdered someone. That's a thing. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's like, I want to feel for this guy, but I think my initial impression of asshole was completely accurate. And the movie shows that, like he said, by going back, but just... Ah! Ooh. And you asked me to react to Impress Your Creators by Cyber R. It's a short music video. Honestly, maybe next time. I'm not entirely sure about that, and I don't want to check anything music-wise on stream right now because in case issues with copyright. But I might or I might not. I'm not actually sure. Also, I have so many videos I want to get to today. There's almost no time. And I just need to finish this at this point. I just need to finish this. Just finish this. Ugh.
Because other people aren't a part of our reality. They are our reality. Believe it or not, what this all brings us back to is the corporate comedy workshop from the start of this video. You remember from like 25 minutes ago?
Yeah, Nathan Fielder. I remember this one. It's like right before a social anxiety horror video came out. I had just watched his Nathan Fielder video and I thought it felt familiar. I was wondering why that inevitable sense of dread was about to happen. That doesn't. Oh, God.
Wait,
we're back.
How long has this video been? Oh God! This is a scene from the TV show The Curse, and The Curse is a show about insincerity. It's about what we become when we try and present ourselves as something we are not. And like everything we've talked about is an absolute social nightmare. But what has haunted me about this show is its final episode, which I need to talk about. So spoilers, you know the deal.
I would like to apologize for my conduct on the last spoiler slide. In truth, I've had a lot of time to grow and reflect since the last spoiler warning, and I think everyone has the right to enjoy art on their own terms. The world is cruel enough without us tearing each other. Each other? Isn't that supposed to be 2 words? Maybe it's an English or an Irish thing. To pieces over how we enjoy art, so I think you should just do what makes you happy. Oh, God. He's going everywhere with that one. I expect one more spoiler card at this point.
It begins with Asher waking up one morning only to find that he is pinned to his own ceiling. And I cannot stress how strange this is in the context of the curse. Aside from a single little girl who might or might not have psychic powers, nothing close to this has happened.
Okay, not that he's pinned. I thought like pinned as in he was just stuck up there with actual tape or something. No, he just can't come down and they're trying and he can move. That, technically, that counts as getting Mary Poppins.
Aster and his wife Whitney scramble to understand what is going on, but there is no reason. There's just this impossible gravity pinning him to the roof. Aster scrambles to escape the house, to escape whatever force has taken hold of him, but when he does, rather than the phenomenon stopping, he just keeps falling upwards, clinging to a tree branch, begging the people around him for help. But they all think he's insane. They ignore his pleas and try and cut him down, until eventually he just plummets into the deep, never-ending void of the sky, where only he exists. I've thought about this scene constantly since I watched The Curse, and I think it's in some ways the entire reason this video exists. I can't speak confidently as to what it means or what the creators intended. Maybe it's karmic justice for all the shitty things Asher does. Or maybe it's just Nathan Fielder and Ben Safdie fucking with us.
I mean, it's going to be Nathan Shafty? Nathan Fielder? Yeah, no, Ben Shafty. Don't know him. But Nathan Fielder fucking with us. That's his entire shtick. Everything he does for multiple series and videos and movies, and apparently movies, this is a series, that's his stick. It's just fucking with the audience. So yeah, it's definitely him. Also, Mega Man, you said it would be cool if I checked out We're So Sorry from OSP sometime. Might be cool. Maybe next week.
I don't know. My personal take, however, is that if there's one nauseating thread that runs through every episode of The Curse, it's Asher's inability to make a genuine connection with anyone around him. To his wife, to his friends, to the people he thinks he's helping, to his fucking corporate comedy workshop. But it's like he can't help isolating himself through insincerity, and in return is made feel alone by everyone around him. He has no genuine connections. He has nothing tying him to this earth. And so, he falls. He falls to a place where no other people exist, where it's just him. And then, he's gone. Other people are the mirrors through which we perceive ourselves. Without them, we do not exist.
God damn.
At this point, I've kind of said most of what I wanted to say about social anxiety horror, but over the course of making this video, there's this old memory I just couldn't get away from. My therapist has told me that I need to stop processing trauma through YouTube videos.
Yeah, you can ignore them. This is probably the best way to do it because it's a group therapy session that's still infinitely cheaper than actual therapy. And probably just as effective, depending on how effective therapy is for you. For some people, no. For some people, probably still no, but you might make money about it this way. And that's called art. You know, I was going to make a joke about that, but considering how many tortured artists have been around to make that a trope in its own right, yeah, it's probably just an accuracy at this point. Also, Raw66.6. Since you're a Warhammer fan and may need a pick-me-up, check out Pancreas No Work videos when you can. A favorite is the Imperium or Space Skaven. I've had that video recommended to me by YouTube for months, which is weird because usually their recommendations stop after a day or two. That one just keeps coming up. So I probably need to check it out at some point.
Well, Irene, looks like you lose again. I was about 12 on a Friday evening playing some ancient version of Street Fighter or Tekken, and I get a phone call from a private number.
Oh.
And when I answer, there's no one on the other ends.
See, this is why you know it's in the past, and he's maybe 12 or 13, so probably early 2000s. Because you answer the call you don't know the number for. It's private, you don't know the number, you answer it still. Yeah, you don't do that anymore.
Just the gentle buzz of phone static, and after about 30 seconds, I hang up. And the moment I do, the phone rings again. I answer, and again, nobody's there. But this time, I stay on the line just a little longer, and as I do, I notice something. Pushing through the gentle hum of static, I can hear the soft rhythm of someone breathing. I ask again if anyone's there, and again, I don't get a response. I hang up again, and again, my phone rings. Again, private number, again, silence, and again, I hang up.
I'm pretty sure people have actually just done this in the same way that he earlier had people who were... Let's see if I can get to the one. I don't quite remember. It was where they showed the people at the restaurants where they would just torture the one lady because someone on the phone told them to. It's people who are essentially just trolling in real life and being shitheads. Now, whether this is an actual experience of his or not, I don't know, because he's used made-up experiences to illustrate points before. It doesn't really matter, though, because these do exist, and it's annoying.
This repeats 7 or 8 times until finally I turn my phone off.
Yep.
And
block the number.
When I turn it back on, hours later that evening, within seconds, it starts to ring again. This goes on the entire weekend and into the following week, but soon, it's not just phone calls. I start getting text messages, and they're strange and aggressive, but what's really unsettling is that the person sending them, they're not a stranger. They know things about me. They know the people I know. They know what I look like. They know where I live.
I mean, admittedly, everything he just said is publicly available information online, so not actually that shocking if you've done any basic searches. And I do mean basic. I'm not talking like going on the dark web. I'm talking paying someone. I'm talking, you can just Google this shit. Yeah, that's about it. It's actually not hard to find. How accurate it is depends, but it's out there. Yeah. Also, Mega Man, you said, also, TWA made an apology video template in case you need a template to follow. Oh god, I might actually need to make an apology video, not just follow that. Yeah, but these kind of events he's describing right now, usually, if they start talking, it's because of a scam in real life. And sometimes it's a stalker, and you should probably call the police, but frankly, they're not going to be able to do much because just calling to annoy someone is more restraining order territory, which you can just do, but unless you actually know who's doing it, it's not really going to help. The best option is just to block them and maybe get some security cameras so that you can call the police when they actually do something.
And
not a good option,
to get
but
really weird. So I blocked the number and I think that's it, but it isn't. The phone calls don't stop, and I start to get
they can spoof their number.
More text messages, and sometimes they're just weird and cruel, but sometimes it's someone pretending to be people I know and trying to meet up with me. And the scary part is that these messages, they're not just coming from one number. I'm getting texts from around a dozen different phones, and this was early 2000s Ireland.
I'm not sure how common it was in Ireland, but I'm pretty sure phone spoofing existed in the 90s. It's really easy now, but I'm pretty sure it existed for quite a while. Now you just go to a free website, say, hey, this is what I want my phone number to appear as, and you do it. I did a stint as an insurance salesman, and they spoofed every single number they called from because they wanted to make people think that I live in your neighborhood right down the street, which was stupid because obviously no one did that. But that was what happened. Also, as you can tell, I am not an insurance salesman anymore. Fuck that. Mostly because what it ended up being was you go to the house of someone who is in terminal cancer situations. You have to tell them, I'm sorry, we can't do it. And that was the majority of it. Yeah, that was not fun.
Burner phones, temporary numbers, those did not exist.
Oh, so they weren't a thing in Ireland?
Had to have been
burners?
People. I start to ask my friends who these people are or why this is happening, and they tell me that they don't know. But the fucked up part is that after a while, I stopped knowing whether to believe them. This goes on for months, and then one evening my phone rings, again private number, and I answer expecting the usual silence, but for the first time there's a voice. The voice of a grown woman. She's singing. She sings the entire chorus to 90s hit song Ghetto Superstar in this low, shaky, crawling tone.
I don't know what that song is.
She's not a bad singer. I have never been so afraid. Not long after this, the phone calls, the text messages, they just stop. And years later, I would discover one of the people responsible, and later in life, punch him in the back of his head during his wedding ceremony. And
I hope this is a real story because fuck it, that guy deserves it.
O'Grady, if you're seeing this, you'll notice that hasn't happened yet. That's because I'm waiting for you to get married. Maybe this story doesn't sound like much after everything else we've talked.
I don't know. Online harassment like this, just this kind of harassment, is terrifying because it goes in the social anxiety of what he's talking about. And it's real. And frankly, it's also heavily weaponized right now, not so much to harass people, but to get money and steal from them. And usually then it escalates to finding fucked up pictures on Google to make people believe they're imminently in danger. And when you do that, most people will default to doing whatever you want. This isn't a video about scams, but every single thing he's talking about right here is a making of how to steal everything from a person. And Mega Man, you said, I live on Earth, so you are coming? Honestly, dude, I'm not sure we can talk about that on YouTube. That's a little personal. I mean, good for you. I'm glad you're having fun, but bit much. Also, joking aside, oh my God, you know where I live, on Earth. Yeah, I know you're playing into the social anxiety horror aspect, and it is freaky if people get that information. But also, this is America. Everyone assumes that there's at least 1,000 different people anywhere who have the same name. Also, it's annoying because I get some of their mail, and then I have to find out what their actual address is because they sent it to the wrong Michael Farina, and apparently it's a very common name. I didn't realize it was, and then you get your own address, and it's very common. It's actually very annoying because it keeps getting sent back to the post office, and then they accidentally send it back to you, but then it sometimes goes to the wrong other Michael Farina, so you eventually get a, like, reposted letter, and it's a problem. I don't know why this happens. I don't know if it happens to anyone else, but it's a thing, and it's very annoying.
About, but to this day, I have never felt a fear like that. And I think in a way, I've kind of always been looking for something to contextualize that fear. And I think that's what this video is. Horror can be anything. It can be the fear of a knife-wielding stranger or impossible monster, or it can be the fear of the space between you and other people. The fear that maybe one day the people around you will see that you are not enough. And worse, it's horror that's your fault. You weren't funny enough. You weren't interesting enough. You weren't...
I mean, that's not a fear right now. That's just doing a live stream on YouTube. Like right now, there's 95 people watching. That is surprising for me. I'm used to my usual live stream being, hey, there's 5 people. And frankly, I just had fun regardless. But having more than that is still in the whoa side. And I realize for YouTube numbers, that's small. For Twitch numbers, that's not even worth mentioning. But the idea of what he's talking about, you're not funny enough, is basically, hey, introduction to how to stream, and then how every first stream usually goes, because first ones are hard. Maybe this is why I'm more okay with it and more annoyed than scared, because doing a lot of YouTube is just having social anxiety punch you in the face constantly for years. Also, literally, I have entire videos of me being an idiot that can be used against me in a court of law. So, I've kind of just accepted that at this point.
Weren't sensitive enough. Through the mere act of being, you are not enough. And you can struggle. You can buy nice clothes and read interesting books, but you will never stop being you. And that will never stop being deficient, and some
I wonder if he immediately said that and thought of Undertale because of the mirror in there where it said, despite everything, you're still yourself, or you're still you. That... It made fits because it's an element of social anxiety in there that doesn't become social anxiety until you realize how far things have gone. And here it's reflected, so it would technically fit. If anything, I'm surprised he hasn't shoehorned that in because it would be applicable.
someday, the people around you will see that. That's the horror of social anxiety, and I think it is a deeply human and universal fear. But the thing about horror is that it lets us explore those fears, and in doing so, realize that we're not the only ones who feel them.
I wonder if he's going to mention that the other way out of horror is that if you engage with something horrific in person, it stops being nearly as scary as when it's an unknown. For example, for the longest time, I was terrified of heights. You got me near the edge of a one-story building, and I'd be like, okay, this is a little scary. If I was a couple feet up, I would be a little afraid. I'd edge away from an edge. Weird way to put that. Then my family went to the Grand Canyon and decided the best thing we could do was to hike down it. 1/2 mile down, 1/2 mile up. Because any further it would actually give you the bends, and that would probably kill you falling over the edge. So we did that. After the first hour of walking down and knowing that if I look over the edge far enough, I will die, you kind of get nearer to it because, yeah, I'm sure there's imminent actual death on one side. But also, you're so freaking hot and so freaking tired. You're like, you know what? Fuck it. I don't care enough. We're just going to make it down to the bottom. And then you got to do it back up again. It's like, oh yeah. Hey, look, more imminent death. Neat. After a while, exposure therapy seems to work. Or it absolutely breaks you and leaves you as juddering, gibbering, stuttering meth. I know what I said, and I stand by it. So yeah. It does technically happen.
And I think that's what's great about media like this. It's like, oh, cool. This shit scares other people too. I guess I'm not alone in that. And I think that's good. I think that's why social anxiety horror is important. It's also made me realize how becoming a YouTuber and tying my livelihood to a massive collection of amorphous strangers was probably a mistake. Yeah. Get your Eyepatch Wolves t-shirt.
Okay, unironically, that's cute. This is actually still incredibly badass.
Shirts now.
Seriously though, guys, this is... If there's one thing I found out through this entire video is that there's an entire genre of horror that I need to avoid, not because I have a weak stomach, which I do, or because I'm a coward, which I am. It's because it fundamentally pisses me off. Every step of the way in here, I'm just sitting here going, punch someone. They'd all seem to deserve it, especially when the actual people were involved, like the manager who was actually torturing her employee because she thought she had to. At some point, violence was the correct answer because it might snap someone out of it and actually force them to call the police, which would have ended everything. I'm fascinated by this. I think this is really cool. I like this video. But this is a hard video to watch. Would you believe I came into this thinking I'd do it in maybe 1 or 2 streams and be done with it? Or I might even get it done in 1. And then it took 3. Not because it was hard, but because the sheer what the fuck was bashing me in the face every time. I'm sure that's a surprise for everyone who's still here right now because we just had the rest of the bash in the face. And again, the weird part to all of this is that this is fun. I like this. I like what Super Eyepatch Wolf is doing. I like how he's digging in and showing how the horror is being used and illustrating it. I love these style of deep dive videos into media and concepts and what could become or are tropes already. This is fascinating. Which is why it hits so hard because of it. So basically, I'm going to agree with Natasha Cat Gaming said. It was fine, but I never want to watch it again. I will recommend this to people. I will make a point to, if I'm with them, say, hey, check this out. You'll like it. And I know they will because they're into this kind of documentary. I will not be in the room with them when they watch it. And I will gladly take the praise of, hell, that was a great video you recommended. Or, God damn you, why did you recommend that? Honestly, I'm okay with either outcome on this point. But I'm not going to be there for any of it. Yeah. You guys know the deal, though. There's a link below to the video. Hit it up. And I'll see you in the next one. Moving on, if you're here live, that might sound weird because I just do all the recordings for the week on YouTube right now. And it's just fun to talk to people during the videos. And also because if I didn't have everyone in chat right now to rely on, I would not have made it through that. I am not nearly caffeinated enough to deal with that, or I am still too sober to deal with that. Both are issues I would need to correct.